meeting of the Anderson Township Zoning Commission to order. Sarah, if you'd like to call roll.
Mr. Guyer?
Here.
Mr. Dunges?
Here.
Mr. Lewis?
Here.
Mr. Gothard?
Here.
Mr. Henson?
Here. Thank you. It looks like we have one item on tonight's agenda. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
And a second?
I'll second that.
Oh, good. Thank you. Mr. Guyer?
Yes.
Mr. Dunges?
Yes.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Gothard?
Yes.
Mr. Henson?
Yes. Thank you. We do have the minutes from the April 25th meeting, and it looks like we have a quorum to approve those. Looks like Jay, Jonathan, and myself. Did you have any edits to the minutes from that meeting?
I did not have any edits, Mr. Chair.
I didn't have any, but
Nope.
Brian sometimes does. But he's not here.
They look good to me as well, so I'll move to approve.
Second.
Mr. Guyer?
Abstain.
Mr. Dunges?
Abstain.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes.
Mr. Gothard?
Yes.
And Mr. Henson?
Yes. Thank you. So moving on to our first and only item on tonight's agenda. This is case 1, 2019. We're still referring to it that way, right? It's because it's a major modification.
Correct.
To the property at 8501 Beachmont Avenue, filed by Mark Wilhoit, of Compton Eddy. And Paul, if you'd like to present the...
Thank you. The location's at 8501 Beachmont Avenue. The zoning there is EE, which is planned retail. The request is to modify the facade of the originally approved building, Panera Bread, which is proposed to be constructed there on this site. The restaurant itself is proposed at 3950 square feet, drive-through restaurant with outdoor seating, and then associated parking lot and landscaping. This was considered a major modification. We'll go through the case history here. The original case was heard on March the 7th, 2019 by Regional Planning. It went through the Zoning Commission a couple of times, and then the Township Board of Trustees approved the zone change at their May 16th, 2019 meeting. The Zoning Commission heard the first final development plan request in December 2021, and then there was a modification to that as well. Oh, I'm sorry, I went backwards. And then the last modification was approved on February the 28th, 2022. And the last modification dealt with the berm toward the rear of the property. This request, again, is solely for the building materials proposed for the Panera. So the site, the restaurant is staying the same size. The Buffalo Wings and Rings building in the back, the design of that still has not been finalized, so that will still come before you as phase 2. But this is strictly with the Panera Bread and the facade. So we'll just refresh your memory on the site itself, Beachmont Avenue. This is the site. Graders is to the east, and then Montgomery Cyclery is to the west. Again, the site zoned EE, which is planned retail. This is the aerial. The current building is still on site. It was the former Identity Hair and Nail Salon. This is the topography map. So the applicant highlighted the two areas that are proposed. The applicant's requesting to have the building material as EFS in the areas that are highlighted in yellow versus what was previously approved. And we'll get to the elevation drawings. So this was what was previously approved in 2021. And I'm going to make sure I get so they're proposing the elevation here where the Panera is on both the north facade as well as on the west facade, and then also around the drive-through window. The previous, what was proposed was the FRP panels. with the exterior insulated finishing system being on this area of the building, the ephes, and then this is proposed now to be ephes as well. Again, this is the proposal. These would be the areas that would be changed to all ephes. When this was originally brought to staff, we felt that it should be reviewed by the Zoning Commission again, specifically because there was a condition that was placed, and that was condition number 3, which we can go through the site photos real quick. I think most of you are familiar with the site. So this was the resolution that was approved during the zone change by the Board of Trustees. They placed conditions, and this is what was reviewed during the final development plan by the Zoning Commission. And condition number 3 specifically said that both buildings shall be of modern in design and constructed of quality building materials in accordance with the submitted building plans. So the Zoning Commission approved the FDP based on the elevations that were submitted in December 2021 meeting. And it was conditioned that the rear elevation include a mixture of building materials, as the original rear facade was all identified as ephes. And that was resubmitted to us with a brick veneer along the rear, or along the bottom of the rear and the sides. So when the Zoning Commission placed that specific condition on there, and then the applicant returned wanting to add more ephes, we felt that that was somewhat in contradiction to what that specific condition. We do have our Anderson Township design guidelines to reference, specifically on page 32 of the design guidelines. When it references building materials, it talks about a primary building material versus a secondary building material. Secondary building materials, ephes is considered a secondary building material, and is encouraged on the sides and the rear of the building versus the front facade of the building. And you can read through it, but there is a list of what would be considered a primary and traditional building material versus a secondary building material. So staff had concerns that majority of the building was becoming ephes, and it's discouraged to have ephes as a primary building material for buildings on Beachmont Avenue. So again, this is the area of the building that is proposed to go to all ephes. The applicant did submit colored renderings that were handed out tonight, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have, or we can hear from the applicant for more description of the building materials. Yes?
A question. Do we have a certain percentage that sort of flags it to, you said primary, is it a 51% or? No, the design guidelines do not specifically say that. This was the area that is referenced in the design guidelines. But there's nothing that all of a sudden triggers?
Correct.
Okay.
And to confirm, these renderings are the original approved design, correct? Not the-
I would ask the applicant. I think that is what is proposed.
Mr. Guyer, did you have any questions? Jay, did you have any questions? Jonathan? I don't have any questions. Well, maybe, it's not really to this case, but with the newer, like I'm thinking of Kentucky Fried Chicken or Gold Star, are those primarily ephes?
No, at Kentucky Fried Chicken, theirs is painted brick. They actually put brick up, but they painted it red and white to match the rest of their building, but it was actually brick material. They do have some ephes on the front, but the majority of it was actually brick. I don't know if you remember, because it went up so fast. It was
What
brick
about-
for
I
about
mean,
a week or
there was
so,
the-
and then it was painted red and white.
I guess the Burger King isn't even in Anderson Township, is it?
No.
So, okay.
In Gold Star, there is a mixture of materials. There is some ephes on Gold Star.
I don't have any questions. If the applicant would like to make a presentation, or if we have any questions to ask of him. Sure. Just please remember to state your name and address.
Mark Wilhoit with Compton Addy, and the address is 3805 Edwards Road, Cincinnati, Ohio, 45209. So yeah, this is a pretty simple request, and I appreciate the time Paul has put in for this project, and hopefully this is the last time we come before you on the Panera site. We continue to see things evolve. But this is really, it comes down to the current environment that we're working in these days in the construction world in terms of costs, labor issues, supply chain, you name it. The construction industry right now and just the world of development is kind of upside down. It doesn't matter if it's retail, industrial, whatever. And we work with a lot of tenants. This tenant in particular, Panera, is actually one of the better ones on the front end. They've actually started to look at their projects and their designs of their buildings and are helping guys like us and other developers in terms of changing either materials or simplifying some of their designs, which will allow guys like us to produce these things quicker, get them open, and hopefully these guys, their businesses aren't dragged out as much as they have been with all the supply chain issues and everything that's going on in the world. But let me back up to the Panera. The elevations that I handed out late when I walked in, those are the original designs. That's their new prototypical or their latest. There's nothing really prototypical today in the retail world, but that's the latest Panera that will be built. Anything you see going up here in this market, probably Columbus, Indiana, that's the prototype that they will be building. So the colors, all of the materials are exactly the same as what we had submitted initially, and I apologize for the poor the poor elevations that I sent Paul for his package. They don't represent the colors, but the textures, or I'm sorry, not the colors, but the colors aren't accurate on the elevation here. The colors that are accurate are what we handed out today. And the only change that we're asking for is the green pieces of the elements, the entry feature and the drive-through is an FRP system, which our understanding is the FRP one is hard to get. The supply chain issues there, the subcontracting base that's actually putting those things together, it's difficult right now. So what they've asked us to do on this project, and we're doing it for our future projects that we're working on now, is going in with this piece, the entry feature and the drive-through as EFS. It's the same color, it's the same texture, it's just not the same material. Instead of FRP, which are the panel systems, this is actually an EFS system, which is part of the building. And Paul was correct, on the back and on the sides, we do still have EFS, and we have the brick on the bottom, and then we have the brick around the front, along with some metal cladding that looks like wood. So none of that has changed on the elevations. The only request is that Panera has asked us to go back with you guys and asked if there was a possibility of changing the green pieces of the building to an EFS product versus the FRP. So it's as simple request as that. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but that's why we decided to come before you guys, and Paul was so kind to put us on the only person for tonight, so we'll see where it goes.
Thank you. Let's start right here. Do you have any questions, John?
Couple questions. The original one was a fluted texture.
Yes.
Is the fluted texture still going to be achieved through these?
My understanding is from what Panera is telling us, it's going to look the same in terms of the design, the overall, how it's put together. It's just an EFS product.
But EFS is usually flat.
It is.
Does not have any fluid, but you can do.
You can carve it and cut grooves and things like that, which I'm assuming is what will happen. But again, what they told us, the design and the look is not going to change other than the material. So maybe there is a little bit of difference there. We actually haven't seen it yet. This is the first one that will be done if it's approved in EFS. But going forward, any new Paneras that you'll see, if they're approved locally, is going to have this element as an EFS product.
And if we put a condition that it has to be a fluted texture and not a smooth texture, we can put that
Absolutely. I would think if you say it's to be similar or very close to what, absolutely.
And on the renderings, since that's a prototype, it doesn't show the brick base around these building elements, but the elevations do. You're going to achieve the elevations that were submitted, not the rendering.
That's correct. So the rendering I was showing you guys is just for the colors, because I wanted to make sure you understood what the colors were. But no, what was approved was the brick base and the veneer across the back and the rear. So yes, that's what we're doing.
That's
What-
the question I have.
Okay, great.
Michael?
Do you know what the ramifications would be with an FRP system from a time standpoint for the project?
Not 100%. We just know that it's taking longer. It's definitely more expensive right now. So with the combination of the time issues and the cost, that's why Panera is asking us to make these changes. Right now, we're scheduled to hopefully start this work probably end of June, if not earlier. So they want an opening by the end of this year, or at least a delivery. So it would be really tight to be able to, if the change wasn't granted, things may be pushed into early next year. I mean, we haven't really determined exactly what the time delay is yet. We just know Panera's notified us that things are taking much longer, and we're seeing that now in all our other projects as well. So unfortunately, I can't give you, is this a 2-week delay, is this a month delay? I just don't know.
Brandon, did you have any questions?
Yeah, just one. Do you know any percentages of, like, say, percentage of brick on the west elevation versus percentage of EVIS on the west elevation?
Not offhand. I mean, we could actually do a calculation for you guys if that's a condition that you guys want to see. We'd happy to have the architect to figure that out.
Okay.
I mean, I think if you looked at each elevation right now, I think on the front, which is, I can't read that, but the front elevation, there's no EFS other than what would be on the green.
Mm-hmm.
On the elevation to the right, it would look like, I would say that's probably a 50-50 split, because the other kind of hatched area and the base is all brick.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably a 50-50 split with brick between EFS. And of course, there's a metal band that runs kind of the watermark or the water table. On the rear, I think that's probably 80% EFS, 20% brick on the back there. And then on this side, once that tower element, the drive-through element becomes EFS, I'd probably get that as a 50-50. Well, actually, probably a little less than that. It probably is a little more brick.
Close, yeah.
60-40 maybe.
Okay. That's all I had.
Thank you. I don't have any questions for you either. I guess seeing some audience members here tonight, if we have anyone who would like to come up and speak in favor of the proposal, please do at this time.
I just have some questions, more or less.
Yep.
So should I just come up
Questions for the applicant?
regarding this piece of the project?
Sure, come on up. Just remember to state your name and address and any affiliation to the project, if any.
My name is Terry McQuarrie. I live at 8518 Sunmont Drive. We're in the property adjacent to this whole development. What my questions would be is if, is this going to prolong the disruption? This whole project's going to disrupt our lives because of having all the construction behind us. So is this going to extend the life of the disruption for us?
If you could ask the questions to us.
Okay.
And then we'll pass them back.
Okay, that's my one question. And then the new product that is going to be used, I'm not familiar at all with the quality of it, and will it continue, to have a good lifespan, that it'll look, real in a good condition, so that it doesn't, devalue our properties any more than what this whole project is? Is that,
Thank
so
you.
should I sit down?
Nope, that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, and real quick, if we have any other audience members who'd like to speak in favor or ask questions or speak against the project, please come up.
Yeah, my name's Jerry McQuarrie. I live at 8518 Sunmont Drive, with the property adjacent right in back of the building project. As of right now, we've been having a lot of water problems. So is this, what I'm getting at, is the piping and the sewer situation going to be taken care of as fast as possible as far as trying to solve the water problem that's coming back on our property line? That's one of the questions that I'm asking. As far as the trees, they're going to leave a 35-foot gap between the property line of Buffalo Wings and Rings and our property line. As far as the trees, what type trees they're going to put in, and if they're going to extend the outdoor seating, we want trees that can block the light and the noise that are coming from that area. So we like to have this defined, exactly what type trees and stuff that they are going to put in. And we like to have it put in right on the property line, 35 feet back, and put the trees in right there on the property line. On the line they decided to leave us. As far as the water lines coming down in between our property, now there's already sewer lines there that trees put in. Now, as far as these water lines coming down, those should not be destroyed. I mean, there's enough room to put another pipe down through there without destroying the lines that are already there, because they're bringing the water under our property to the sewer line and across the street to the holding pond. So when they start doing the renovation, this is one of the things that need to be brought up. And that's about it. And I thank you for your time.
Do we have any other audience members who'd like to come up and speak in favor or against the project tonight? Okay, I'd invite the applicant to come back up and feel free to keep your answers focused to the agenda items tonight. I know a lot of the other items that were discussed have already been approved or taken care of.
So I believe that the one question was the timing, correct? In terms of it would delay. Our hope it's not going to delay, just because the duration of the project is usually 150 days construction. So if we're not approved with the change, we just have to scramble a little bit to make sure it's, ordered in time and it gets there. And the logistics and supply chains, we're at kind of the mercy of all that. So could it extend? Possibly. I mean, we've got other issues with mechanicals and other things that we're kind of struggling with, but for the most part, 150 days should be enough time, with or without this approval for the EFS. So our hope is that, look, we're in the same spot. We want to finish it as fast as possible, because the longer it takes, the longer the tenant's out, and so we're on the same team here, trying to get it done as fast as possible. What was the other question?
Well, the landscaping and the higher product.
I think the other question.
I didn't know we didn't know if you were involved in that.
Well, we are. From the first phase, we're going to install all of the landscape and everything needed, and do all the water and the sanitary, everything that needs to be done per the plans that were, I think, approved at our last meeting. So those, I think those are of a record, right?
Yes, those, and I can share those plans with you.
And it gives you the
When,
trees and
yeah.
everything, the type of trees and everything that are going on.
the other question was the quality of building materials and the longevity.
Oh, yes. So both systems, it's fiber reinforced plastics. They're very similar in nature in terms of the product type. I don't know what the lifespan is, but it's like anything else, 30 plus years. So there's no real degradation going from an FRP to an EFS system. From a building owner, EFS is usually more preferred, just because I think the system is a watertight system without open joints. With FRP systems, sometimes you have open joints with the paneling systems, which can tend to, as a building owner, you would prefer to have an EFS system that's tight all the way around versus an FRP. But longevity, there's really no difference between the two.
Thank you. Did you guys have any follow-up questions for the applicant tonight, or you think we're ready to open discussion? Sure. Brandon, I'll start with you again down at your end.
Yeah, I guess going back to the design guidelines, does it specifically state that EFS is not allowed on the front elevation, or is it just recommended?
No, it doesn't say it can't be on the front elevation.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have for now.
Michael?
Yeah, I think in general, I'm fine with it. I mean, there is other ethos on the building. I think it making it a different color is gonna help provide some contrast as well. And then the other thing that I like with the new drawings in general is that there is a lot more brick around the outside, which I think gives all four sides of the building a better appearance in general than it did prior. I also like Mr. Goddard's idea about putting a condition that the texture or the flutes are included on the green sections to kind of match what the original plan was. That's all.
Yeah, I think I agree with Commissioner Henson, or Dungy's, that, you know, with this supply chain, I'm sure we see this, it just doesn't come before the zoning commission, where they've had to change out for what's available, for what was planned, based on availability. So I think Panera will ensure that the quality is there and it will be kept up to the standards that Panera has going forward. So swapping out is not, to me, that huge of an issue.
Mr. Goffey?
I concur with the other commission members, you know, as far as their comments and directions. So thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I actually don't have anything to add to the discussion tonight, so we could probably close it. And, since you had a revision, maybe you'd like to make a motion.
Sure. I'll make a motion to approve case 1-2019 Anderson major modification for the property at 8501 Beachmont Avenue with the following conditions. The green elements that are proposed to be changed to eaves have a fluted texture in addition to the green color under the Panera guidelines. And that the brick base and water table remain as shown on the submitted elevations dated 2022-04-27.
Were there any proposed changes to that element? I'm just wondering if we need to add that.
He was just affirming it.
Yeah, I was just affirming it because of the renderings that were passed out.
There were no changes, just to be clear.
Right,
So.
I'm comfortable with it. Sorry, John.
That's okay.
I'll second.
This is kind of complicated.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jay.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Guyer?
Aye.
Mr. Dungus?
Aye.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Gothard?
Yes.
Mr. Henson?
Yes.
Thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, not seeing any other agenda items, we can close this unless you have some new business.
We have no new business. We are expecting at least one case next month on the 27th, June 27th. June 27th.
Oh,
This was an easy.
actually.
Thank you guys again. See you.
I won't be here.
Thank you.
You know that. So, sorry.
This is complicated, that's why I do that.
I like it.
Okay.
Motion to close.
Okay.
So moved.